Ever feel like there's this whole hidden language underneath, like, everyday life, like something deeper is going on?
Oh, absolutely. And that's what we're diving into today, this idea of Jungian archetypes, right?
Mhm.
Like a secret code to the human experience almost.
Exactly. So we've been digging into Carl Jung's work, and he talks about this thing called the collective unconscious, this wellspring of shared, like, images and experiences. It sounds kind of deep, right?
Yeah, it's like imagine a library, but instead of books, it's filled with these universal patterns and symbols that we all tap into. Jung called them archetypes.
Okay, so it's not just like random stuff floating around in our heads. There's actual structure to it.
Right. And these archetypes, they're like the building blocks of how we understand ourselves, each other, the whole world, really.
Okay, so, like, what kind of building blocks are we talking about here? Give me an example.
Well, think about the hero archetype. Like, we see this everywhere,
Yeah.
from ancient myths to, like, every blockbuster movie
Oh,
ever.
totally. Like Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, Katniss Everdeen. It's like they all follow that same basic storyline.
Exactly. And Jung would say it's not just that we love a good hero story, it's that we're hardwired to resonate with that archetype. It's like this deep part of us recognizes that urge to face challenges, go on adventures.
Yeah, yeah, that I can overcome anything part of us. It's inspiring.
Right. And it shows how these archetypes aren't just like theoretical concepts. They're actually operating in our lives all the time.
Yeah. Okay, so if the hero is that, like, driven part of us, what about those other characters, those other archetypes that show up in these stories? Like, what about the wise old mentor figure?
Ah, yes, the mentor. Think Gandalf from Lord of the Rings. Or even like that teacher who really believed in you, even when you didn't believe in yourself.
Oh, I had one of those. Mrs. Rodriguez, my eighth grade English teacher. She really helped me find my voice.
There you go. See, the mentor archetype is all about guidance, wisdom, offering support on the journey.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got the hero, the mentor. Don't tell me it's all sunshine and roses, though. There's got to be some, like, more challenging figures in this archetypal mix, right?
Oh, absolutely. You can't forget the trickster, right? Always stirring the pot, shaking things up.
Okay, this is sounding a little less warm and fuzzy now.
Well, think about it. The trickster, they might be mischievous, but they often reveal hidden truths. They make us question everything.
Okay, I see, I see. So not always the bad guy, but definitely keeps things interesting.
Exactly. And then there's the shadow.
Ooh, okay, now that sounds ominous, like Darth Vader level ominous. What's the deal with the shadow archetype?
All right, so the shadow, this one can be a little tougher to face. It's
Okay.
the parts of ourselves we tend to hide away. Our fears, our insecurities, the things we don't want to admit to, even to ourselves.
So all the stuff we keep shoved in the back of our mental closets.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Jung believed that we can't just ignore our shadows. We actually have to confront them if we want to grow.
Okay, now that sounds intense. Like, how do you even start to do that? Do we just, like, invite our shadow over for tea and a chat?
Uh-huh. Probably not the best approach. But honestly, one of the most powerful ways to access these hidden parts of ourselves is through our dreams.
Ooh, dreams. Now you're speaking my language. Always been fascinated by those. So how do they connect to all of this?
Jung believed that dreams are like a direct line to our unconscious, where those archetypes hang out. And by paying attention to the symbols, the characters, the emotions that come up in our dreams.
We can start to understand ourselves better. Like, if I have a recurring dream about, I don't know, being chased through a forest, that's not just random anxiety. It's my shadow trying to tell me something.
It could be. It's all about learning to listen to those messages, even if they're coming through in a symbolic, dreamlike way.
This is blowing my mind. So we've got all these archetypes swirling around in our subconscious, popping up in our dreams, influencing our waking lives. It's like this whole hidden world we're just starting to uncover.
And the more we understand this world, the more we understand ourselves,
Right.
our motivations, our relationships, everything.
So it's like having a new lens to view, well, everything through.
Exactly.
This is incredible. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but I want to know more about how these archetypes actually play out in our everyday lives. Like, what does it look like to embody the hero archetype in the real world? Or to confront your shadow?
I'm happy to break it down further.
All right, so we've got these archetypes swirling around in our subconscious, popping up in our dreams. But how do we actually see them playing out in our waking lives?
Okay, so imagine this. You're someone who's like totally drawn to nature. You feel most at peace surrounded by trees, mountains. You know the type.
Oh, 100%. That's me all the way. Give me a hike over a crowded bar any day.
Right. So you might find yourself drawn to things like herbalism, environmental activism, Or maybe you just give amazing advice to your friends like a natural-born counselor.
Okay, so is there like an archetype for nature lovers? Because that sounds awfully familiar.
You got it. That's the wise old woman or man archetype in action. That deep connection to wisdom, intuition, and, yeah, the natural world.
Wow, okay. So it can show up as like a literal grandparent figure in your life, or like you said, a mentor.
Absolutely. Or even, just that inner voice that's always urging you to trust your gut.
Okay, so if you're hearing that call of the wild, so to speak, it might be worth asking yourself, what would the wise old woman or man do?
Exactly. Tap into that energy. Or let's say you're the person who's always questioning the rules, challenging authority, never met a boundary you didn't want to push,
Oh
right?
my gosh, yes. I once convinced my high school principal to let our class have a debate about the cafeteria food instead of taking a math test.
There you go. Classic trickster archetype at work.
No.
Totally. You probably have a knack for seeing things from unexpected angles, shaking things up in a positive way.
Huh, I never thought of it like that. So maybe that's why I'm drawn to like comedy or social justice.
It's all connected. You start to recognize these patterns, and it's like, aha, that's why I am the way I am.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But what about those times when we're struggling? When those like not so pretty sides of ourselves come out?
Ah, you're talking about the shadow. That's where the real work begins, what Jung called shadow work.
Yeah, the stuff we talked about before sounds a little intimidating, to be honest.
It can be, for sure. Remember that mental basement we were talking about? Sometimes you got to go down there and take a good look around. And it's not always pretty down there.
So how do we even begin to deal with that? Do we just like send our shadow a calendar invite for a little chat?
Haha. I wouldn't recommend scheduling a meeting. It's more about creating a space for those feelings to just be acknowledged without judgment.
Okay, so maybe less of a formal meeting, more like, I don't know, a meditation retreat with my shadow self.
Exactly. It's not about getting rid of the shadow because we all have one. It's about understanding what it's trying to tell us.
You know, it reminds me of that quote, the wound is where the light enters. Sometimes those difficult emotions, those shadow parts of ourselves, can actually lead us to like profound growth.
Beautifully said. And that's what's so powerful about Jung's work. It reminds us that we contain multitudes. We could be both the hero and the shadow, the mentor and the trickster.
So we're not striving for some perfect Instagram filtered version of ourselves.
No, it's about recognizing that all those parts, even the messy ones, are what make us who we are.
Okay, I love that. So where does the hero's journey fit into all of this? It feels like that archetype is practically begging us to like book a plane ticket and go on a grand adventure. So we established we're all like walking, talking archetypes, right? But how does knowing all this actually help us, like in real life?
It's like imagine you've got this incredible map, right? This map to your own psyche. But you've been wandering around totally lost, not even realizing you had it this whole time.
And the map is these archetypes.
Exactly. And now, knowing about these archetypes, it's like we can finally read the map. We can start to make more sense of our lives, our relationships, our careers, everything, really.
Okay, so give me an example. How can I actually use this, like in my everyday life?
Okay, let's say you're feeling stuck, like you're just kind of going through the motions.
Ugh, yeah, I've been there.
Right, so you're yearning for something more meaning, more adventure, more whatever it is.
Right, more growth.
Exactly. And that's where recognizing the hero archetype within you can be so powerful.
Yeah.
It's that part of us that craves that growth, that's yearning for a challenge, for transformation.
So instead of hitting the snooze button, I should be lacing up my like metaphorical hiking boots and answering the call to adventure.
Exactly. Even if that adventure is just trying a new recipe or finally signing up for that pottery class you've been thinking about.
It's about pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or let's say you find yourself constantly like seeking validation from others,
Yeah.
trying to please everyone but yourself.
Oof. Yeah, that one hits a little too close to home.
Right. Well, this could be the persona archetype at play.
The persona.
Yeah, it's like this mask we wear to fit in, to be accepted. And by becoming aware of that pattern, we can start to like peel back those layers. We can connect with our authentic selves, the part of us that doesn't need anyone else's approval.
I love that. It's like we're learning to spot the archetypal costumes we wear in different situations so that we can finally step into our own like true style.
Exactly. Because that's what this is all about. It's about taking ownership of our own stories, right? Just like we can choose which archetypal energies we want to amplify, which ones to integrate, and ultimately create a life that feels more aligned with, well, who we really are.
So for someone listening to this right now who's like, yes, I'm ready to embrace my inner hero or connect with my wise inner mentor, where do they even begin?
Start by paying attention. Notice what resonates with you. What characters, stories, even myths really speak to you on a deeper level. And pay attention to those dreams, those messages from your subconscious.
So it sounds like we're all carrying around these incredible archetypal energies within us. And if we can learn to tap into them, to understand them.
We can unlock so much potential.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for taking this deep dive with us today. This has been incredible.
My pleasure. Always a good time to talk archetypes.
And to everyone listening, we'll leave you with this. What archetype will you choose to embody today? Until next time, keep exploring.